Do oral peptides work? Well, this is what everyone's asking right now. Is like, can you swallow a peptide, have it survive in your stomach, cross your gut wall and into your bloodstream and actually do something meaningful inside your body? Or is it just expensive urine? And that's what we're going to cover in this video. I'm Regan Archibald. I've been obsessed with peptides for over a decade, and I've been able to interview some of the most talented pharmacists who actually know the pharmacokinetics of oral peptides. And I can tell you, most of them do not work if they're not in the right capsule. And I can't emphasize this enough because some of the capsules that they're being put into are triggering an enzymatic response. And so peptides are starting to be broken down. But if you do it in the right way, there's certain peptides that can be used orally, and it can be a game changer for people who don't like injecting themselves. And so if you're somebody who really cares about your health and you want to go deeper in peptides, go to agelessfuture.com and meet with my medical team. We only use licensed 503A and 503B pharmacies so that the peptides you get actually are the right sequence. And one of the unique things as I was interviewing one of our pharmacists, I learned that the way that they can protect these oral peptides is it's not just the covalent bonding, but it's also the end caps on peptides. So think of peptides as these beautiful shapes of amino acids. They're small proteins, and they go in and they bind to the surface of the cell and they turn on genes. But if you're taking a peptide orally, the problem is it really making it to the surface of the cell? And that's where a lot of people say, well, it's getting destroyed by the acidity in your stomach. But what I learned is that peptides, not only are they folded correctly, sometimes the stomach acids can actually act as an accelerant. And then there's enzymes that are bound in these peptides that actually open up the gap junctions in your gut so that you can actually get the peptide circulating in the blood where they bind directly on the target site that they're aiming for. So if someone's telling you that oral peptides don't work, I would have to argue with them that they're right and they're wrong, because not only can they survive the GI tract if they're done well, but they can also help activate unique cellular structures within your biology, and especially if you're somebody who has any issues digestively. In certain times, peptides like BPC, KPV, lorazepam that are made in the intestinal lining, it can be something incredibly beneficial. And especially we've seen this with kids, because I think this is one of the most exciting and misunderstood frontiers in modern medicine. And so by the end of this video, hopefully I'll have a clear-eyed answer to this question of whether peptides actually work. And so think about these medications like GLP-1s. You know, one of the things that has limited people's utilization of them is they don't like giving themselves a shot. And yes, I know for those of us who don't mind shots, we're just rolling our eyes saying, get over it. But there are some real fears around this. And one thing that we've discovered is that if you properly construct these, you can actually get therapeutic benefit. It's not as strong as the injectable and the GLP-1s, but if you think about your stomach acids, why are they there? Well, when you eat a steak, your stomach acids denature that protein. And then the stomach acids, they're there to hydrolyze every peptide bond in that protein. So the proteins, the peptides are just small amino acid chains. So they're small, we'll just call them small proteins. And they reduce it in your body and break down these proteins so that you can absorb it. If the proteins aren't denatured, like if you're taking omeprazole or some kind of acid blocker, what you're going to have is a poor absorption of the proteins. And then you're wondering, like, why don't I build muscle? Well, the real thing is you want to keep your acidity, that pH needs to be very low so that you can denature these proteins. Your stomach's like an oven. And if you get acid reflux, most of the time it's acid creeping up the fundus of your stomach and stimulating more acid production. And if you have low acidity in your stomach, your thyroid's going to suffer, your bone mineral density is going to suffer. And so this is the problem with these drug compounds, is that they're suppressing a system so that you don't have symptoms. But you think of a peptide that enters your stomach, the stomach acidity is very harsh. The proteolytic enzymes in your stomach, like pepsin and trypsin, these are in, not only are they in the stomach and the small intestine, but they can attack these peptide bonds. And if the molecule survives that, it still has to cross that intestinal epithelial barrier, which is designed to block large molecules, because if somehow it passes through, this is what we call leaky gut. In that first pass metabolism in the liver, it can further degrade it before it ever reaches systemic circulation. So are oral peptides bioavailable? Is there any benefit to those? And this is when most of these, when they're not made properly, you're only going to get 1 to 2%. And especially if you're using some of the growth hormone releasing peptides, those are very unstable in stomach acids. And so if you're not using like MK677, which I've got a video coming up on that I think you guys will love. But if you're not using, MK677 is not technically a peptide, it's a small molecule. But if you can use peptides that have the right encapsulation, they're structured properly where the end caps of the peptides are actually bound together, where there's enzymes that allow these peptides to make it through that tight gap junction in your stomach and then access the activation sites on your cells. This is where the magic really happens. And so oral peptides, you'll see in the future, right now, peptides are roughly like an $80 billion global market. It's projected to just continually grow. And you'll see that right now, the GLP-1s, obviously insulin, growth hormone, BPC, all these things are typically done subcutaneously through needles. And so now what everybody's doing is looking at how can we solve the oral bioavailability problem. And I can tell you that it's been done. And because we want people as healthy as possible. And if people are unwilling to give themselves injections, there's a consequence to society. I believe health is more contagious than disease. And so if I can make things easier, better, more gentle for you, then I've done my job. Some people don't care enough to say, well, just get over it and stick yourself with a needle. But actually the science shows that we can actually overcome this problem. And so one of the first things, the first breakthrough in technology, this is called SNAC technology. And SNAC it's a sodium hydroxybenzol amino carprolate. And I know that's a mouthful, but just remember SNAC. So this is the technology behind oral semaglutide, also known as Ribellus. And so SNAC works by creating a local environment in which the stomach that transiently raises the pH around the peptide and reduces the enzymatic degradation, and simultaneously acts as a permeation enhancer to help the molecule pass through that gastric mucosa. The result, well, semaglutide 114 Dalton GLP-1 peptide that would normally be completely destroyed achieves meaningful oral bioavailability. Not as high as injectable, which I mentioned before, but it is clinically effective. And so if you think of this transcellular stomach absorption of a derived glucagon-like peptide receptor agonist, if there's ways that we can actually get it into your cells, that's what we're going to see more and more of with all of these peptides. And so for those of you who are claiming that peptides don't work orally, you just haven't done enough digging. And yes, you're correct, 90% of the peptides, you do need to inject those. But to get a therapeutic dose of somebody who's got metabolic disease, there's some really powerful technology that exists. Or if you've got issues in your GI tract, acid reflux, Crohn's disease, colitis, any of those, there's oral peptides that seem to work really well. And so for those of you who want to go deeper and upgrade your entire body operation system, all you need to do is go to Ageless Future, meet with my team, agelessfuture.com, and let them know that, hey, you're nervous about needles, or you just can't administer it on your own for one reason or another. There'll be no judgment. We'll help you get situated with whatever you're comfortable with. So I'm Regan Archibald. I make these videos because there's a lot of sick people out there. I don't want you to be one of them. I believe that you can increase your health and improve it every year of your life. I'll see you on the next video.